Nobody kept you ignorant about money by accident. They taught you how to memorize dates. They taught you how to pass tests. They taught you how to sit still, follow instructions, and become employable. But when it came to the thing that would decide where you live, who you marry, how much stress you carry, when you can leave a bad job, whether you retire with dignity and whether your children inherit pressure or freedom, they went silent. That silence is expensive. And I want to tell you something even more uncomfortable. Most people do not stay financially trapped because money is complicated. They stay trapped because they never learned the operating order of money. They learned pieces, they learned random tips, they learned slogans. They learned save more, invest early, buy a house, avoid debt, build credit, and 1,000 other fragments, but they never learned sequence. And without sequence, money punishes you. You can earn a decent income and still go nowhere. You can budget and still feel broke. You can invest and still lose ground. You can buy a home and still become weaker. You can get raises and still never feel free, because money is not first about how much comes in. It is about what order you force each dollar to obey. That is the first mechanism. I call it the money mirror. Before you can fix your life, money has to stop being a blur. Most people do not actually know where they stand. They know how they feel. They know what they fear. They know whether this month was tight. They know whether the last bill annoyed them. That is not financial awareness. That is emotional weather. Real awareness starts with 3 numbers: what you own minus what you owe. That is your net worth. What comes in each month minus what goes out. That is your cash flow. How long you can survive if income stops. That is your runway. Those 3 numbers tell the truth faster than any motivational speech ever will. If your net worth is negative, that does not make you a failure. It means the machine is still owning more of you than you own of it. If your monthly cash flow is negative, stop pretending investment ideas are the problem. The leak is earlier. If your runway is 1 month or less, you are not living with a financial plan. You are living with a countdown clock. That is why I always start there. A man with a 6-figure salary and no runway is weaker than a quieter man with less income and 6 months of survival capital. One looks richer. The other is harder to corner. And hard to corner is what wealth really feels like. That leads to the second mechanism. I call it the runway shield. People treat emergency savings like dead money. I treat it like anti-panic capital. A proper emergency fund is not there to impress anyone. It is there to stop one bad Tuesday from mutating into 5 years of financial damage. Car breaks, roof leaks, hours get cut, dog gets sick. Landlord sells the building. Dentist says the word urgent. Suddenly, people who felt normal on Sunday are swiping cards, borrowing from relatives, raiding retirement accounts, and calling it a temporary setback. It was never temporary. It became structural the moment they financed the emergency. That is why a runway matters more than almost any early investment decision. Not because cash is exciting, because fragility is expensive. Even a small buffer changes how your mind works. You stop reacting like prey. You start making decisions with seconds instead of panic. That is the beginning of power. And once you have any shield at all, the next enemy becomes obvious: debt. Not all debt is equal. A mortgage on a sensible house is not the same as a credit card balance funding restaurant meals and dopamine. A student loan that truly raises earning power is not the same as a truck loan wrapped around an ego purchase. Debt is not one thing. Debt is a hierarchy. That is the third mechanism. I call it the interest fire. Most people talk about debt like it is a moral issue. I talk about it like combustion. Some forms burn slowly. Some forms burn your future alive. High-interest consumer debt is financial napalm. You do not manage it while also trying to become wealthy. You kill it, because the arithmetic is merciless. If your card is charging 20% and your index fund might earn 8%, then you are not building wealth. You are trying to jog uphill while somebody is dragging you backward with a chain. The market is uncertain. The debt fire is certain. And that is what people miss. They want offense before defense. They want exciting before stable. They want to talk about investing while the debt is already compounding against them with more consistency than any asset in their life. Number first, you stop the fire, then you build, that is money, in the correct order. Now, once the shield exists and the fire is under control, people usually ask the wrong question: what should I invest in? Too early. The right question is this: what is the cleanest machine I can build with the dollars that now survive? That is where investing actually begins. And investing is far less mystical than people pretend. You are not looking for lottery tickets. You are not trying to outguess a room full of manic strangers every week. You are trying to buy productive assets that keep working while you sleep. That is the fourth mechanism. I call it the ownership machine. Stocks are ownership, bonds are loans, real estate is physical cash, flow infrastructure if handled correctly. Index funds are broad bundles of productive enterprise. That is all investing really is. You hand money to systems that can produce more money than the dollars you handed them. The beauty is simple, the difficulty is emotional. People think investing is hard because the definitions are hard, the definitions are easy. What is hard is staying calm when the machine shakes. If you put money into the market, it will drop. Sometimes a little, sometimes violently, sometimes at the exact moment you felt smartest. That does not mean the machine is broken. It means you finally met the price of long-term ownership, and this is where boring wins. A low-cost broad index fund is not exciting. Good excitement is overpriced in markets. What works for ordinary people is usually simple. Own a wide slice of productive companies. Keep costs low, contribute regularly. Do not interrupt the machine because your emotions became louder than the math. That sounds almost childish. It is also how an enormous amount of serious wealth gets built. People want complicated because complicated feels premium. Premium is often just another word for expensive disappointment. Now, where you invest matters almost as much as what you invest in. If your employer offers a match and you ignore it, you are not cautious. You are refusing free ownership. If you can use tax shelters like retirement accounts and you skip them because a taxable brokerage feels more flexible or more glamorous, you are not being sophisticated. You are paying taxes early for the privilege of feeling active. Taxes matter, fees matter, containers matter. Money that compounds inside the right legal wrapper behaves differently from money left out in the open to be nibbled every year. That is why serious people do not ask only, what return can I get? They ask, in what structure does this dollar get the longest and cleanest runway? That is intelligent capital allocation. And once you understand that, a lot of the financial world stops looking like mystery and starts looking like sequence. Shield, fire, ownership machine, tax shelter, consistency. The order matters. Now let me talk about something people always make emotional too early. Housing a house is not automatically a good decision because culture says adulthood comes with a mortgage. That is one of the most dangerous myths in finance. A home can be a stabilizing asset. A home can also be a beautiful trap. That is the fifth mechanism. I call it the shelter trap. People say renting is throwing money away. That is childish. You know what else throws money away? Buying too much house, ignoring maintenance, stretching for a payment that murders your cash flow, becoming house poor and calling it building equity. Paying closing costs, taxes, interest, insurance, repairs, and opportunity costs just to say you own. A primary residence is not magic. It is a big decision with math attached to it. If you buy the right house at the right price, stay long enough, and keep the carrying costs sane. Wonderful. If you buy because you are scared of looking behind in life, the house can own more of you than you own of it. That is why I never start with buy or rent. I start with what gives you the strongest balance sheet and the most breathing room over the next several years. Sometimes that is buying, sometimes that is renting, and investing the spread. Sometimes that is waiting. The correct answer is the one that preserves margin. Margin is what keeps a life from turning into a pressure chamber. And transportation has the same problem. People do not buy cars anymore. They buy identity packages with monthly destruction attached. A car should solve transportation. That is all. But modern culture sells status, comfort theater, and emotional self-justification through loan terms. Then people spend $700 or $900 a month for a depreciating object and wonder why retirement feels far away, because they are feeding the wrong machine. That is why I say financial literacy is not about knowing definitions. It is about seeing through disguises. A luxury truck disguised as I deserve it. A toxic house disguised as I am building wealth. An expensive lifestyle disguised as I am just living normally. A weak savings rate disguised as I am doing my best. Sometimes normal is just the costume bad math wears. Which brings me to budgeting. People hate the word because they think it means punishment. It does not. A good budget is not a cage. It is an instruction manual. It tells your money where to go before life and mood get first access. That is the sixth mechanism. I call it the 12-month command plan. Most people spend as though each month is a surprise: rent again, insurance again, car registration again, holiday season again, school clothes again, a repair again. Then they act shocked. Number of these things are not surprises. They are known future claims. And if you do not pre-assign dollars to meet them, you are not planning. You are improvising. A budget that works is not one that looks moral. It is one that matches reality and still leaves room for progress. That means you need categories that reflect your life: housing, transportation, food, insurance, debt, saving, investing, irregular costs, a little fun, a little humanity, a little oxygen. If your budget leaves no room for being a person, it will not last. If it leaves no room for building, it is not a budget. It is just slow motion surrender. And this is why automation matters so much. Automation is what turns a good intention into a system. The emergency transfer happens whether you are motivated or not. The retirement contribution happens before you can spend it. The debt payment goes out before the weekend gets a vote. The investing contribution lands even in ugly months. That is how adults outrun their own inconsistency. They stop trusting mood. They build architecture. And once the architecture is in place, goals finally stop being fantasies and start becoming logistics. A down payment in 18 months, a debt balance dead in 2 years, a 6-month runway, a retirement contribution percentage that rises with every raise, a net worth target by age 35, 40, 50 specific, measurable, owned, not I want to do better. Not I should probably start investing more. Not I need to get my finances together. Those are emotional fumes. A real goal has a number, a date, and a funding path. Without that, you do not have a plan. You have a wish wearing office clothes. Now, I want to talk about retirement, because this is where the entire money story either gets redeemed or exposed. Retirement is not just an old age issue. It is the final exam for every financial habit you ever built. If you saved weekly, it will show. If you let lifestyle inflate every raise, it will show. If you carried consumer debt too long, it will show. If you waited too long to invest, it will show. If you built ownership early and protected your cash flow, that will show too. That is the seventh mechanism. I call it the freedom clock. Retirement is not really about age. It is about when your assets can do enough paid work that your labor is no longer mandatory. Some people never reach it because they confuse being employed with being safe. Some people reach it earlier than expected because they built the machine before their peers even understood one existed. And the machine is not built through genius. It is built through early, repeated, boring decisions. Start, automate, increase. Do not interrupt. Ignore noise. Let time do violence on your behalf. That last part matters because compounding is not merely growth. It is delayed force. The first years feel small. Then one day the line bends and people call you lucky. You are not lucky. You are just finally being paid for years when nothing looked dramatic. That is why financial literacy matters so much. It shortens the years of confusion. It gives language to what is actually happening. It reveals the order: know your numbers, build runway, kill the fire, budget reality, own productive assets, use the right account structures, treat houses and cars like math, not identity, automate the machine, respect the freedom clock. That is the operating system. And if I could leave you with one last judgment, it would be this. Money does not first reward the smartest person in the room. It first rewards the person who understands sequence, the person who knows what to do first, what to do second, what to ignore, what to automate, what to delay, what to kill, what to own, what to protect. That person can start with very little and still become dangerous over time because financial literacy is not trivia. It is not vocabulary, it is not impressing people with terms. It is the difference between earning for 30 years and still feeling hunted, or building a structure that slowly makes you harder and harder to control. That is what school should have taught. And if nobody taught it to you, then fine. Now you know, now the only gap left is action.